Emily Friedman is an award-winning independent writer, speaker, teacher, and health policy and ethics analyst. She has authored more than 750 articles on healthcare issues for various publications, including the Journal of the American Medical Association and Health Progress.
True story, I was flying down to Tennessee to speak to the Chamber of Commerce about coverage, and I was sitting next to a very nice man, and he turned to me and he says, "Well, what brings you to Tennessee?" And I said, "I'm giving a speech on the future of health insurance. What brings you to Tennessee?" And he says, "I'm giving a speech on the future of liquid crystal display technology." And I was about to say, "That's nice," and he looks at me, I am not making this up, he looks at me and he says, "Well, mine may be nerdier, but it's going to be a lot less depressing than yours."
She is a contributing editor, contributing writer, or columnist for a number of prestigious healthcare periodicals. 3 times modern healthcare readers have named her as one of the 100 most powerful people in healthcare, and in 2005, the editors of Modern Healthcare named her one of the top 25 women in healthcare.
There are a lot of things wrong with our healthcare system, but there are also a lot of things right with our healthcare system, and I don't like it being referred to in the same terms that we use for juvenile delinquents. The other problem is that I worry that there is momentum to reform things that don't need reforming. I'm reminded of Tim Allen's great line from Home Improvement when he said, "If it ain't broke, you can probably still fix it." Okay, so the question is, if we've been trying to do this for so long, why can't we get it done?
For some funny reason, we haven't been able to make workable policy. I just can't imagine why. But there are other issues. The first thing is policymaking. You know, we tend to sort of think of the ancient Athenians in their robes having civil discussions about how to improve society. Policymaking in this country is not a neutral pursuit. It is politics to its core, and it is often politics at its worst.
This is just not an issue on which any politician is going to ride to glory. Policymakers generally view this as a third rail sort of operation, whereby no matter what you do, half of your constituency is going to get really angry at you.
And understand, there was a whole lot of deal-making on the part of the Democratic leadership in Congress and the administration, especially the latter. And there are a lot of political promises out there that are going to have to be kept.
I'll tell you truly, if you've got a health policy question, you can submit exactly the same question, exactly the same amount of money to the Urban Institute on the left and to the Heritage Foundation on the right. Exactly the same thing. All of the ground rules exactly the same. You will get 2 completely different studies coming to 2 completely different conclusions. The fact is, as long as healthcare costs continue to escalate the way they have done for decades now, no coverage program is sustainable because no one's going to be able to afford to pay for it over the long term.
Furthermore, despite all the wails and accusations, there is no mandate in this statute for rationing of care, which frankly I find to be a pretty stupid argument anyway, given that care is already rationed in this country as it is in every other country. We deny access to most care to helpless poor people, while rich guys can go shopping around the country for a new liver.
The ethics equation is simple enough. Let's just put it on the table. If we do not believe that access to necessary care is a basic human right, then let's say so, establish it as policy, and move on to something else. But if, as most Americans say they do, if we do believe that it is such a right, then we have an obligation to do something to make it happen.
There's a difference between coverage and access. Coverage says you've got theoretical insurance and some provider's supposed to take it. Access means that some provider actually will take you on as a patient. If you have coverage and nobody will take you, nobody will treat you, then your coverage is meaningless. I'm not polite. You may have figured that out by now. Campaign contributions make a tremendous difference. And you need money to run for office. And campaign contributions, I'm sorry, we're supposed to be a clean democracy, and, you know, we're the oldest democracy on earth. We've done pretty well. Campaign contributions influence elected officials and their staffs and the people they appoint to write the regulations.
It's one thing when a hospital closes in a town where other facilities offer the same services. It's another when hospitals that serve patients no one wants in neighborhoods where there is no alternative go down.
Once you are a stockholder-held organization, your ethical responsibility is to the stockholders. So you can't really blame these guys for doing what the law and history and the board intends. The question is, should they be allowed? So my point and my position is go back to nonprofit insurers.
We are running out of primary care physicians. In 2007, less than 45% of these residencies were filled. Since 1995, the number of these physicians has increased by only 1.2% annually. Primary care is the traditional linchpin of healthcare, but medical students are rejecting it. Why? The average family practitioner earns 25% of what the average cardiovascular surgeon earns. This is not lost on medical school graduates carrying an average debt of $140,000. A linchpin is defined as something that serves to hold together the elements of a complex. If there are not enough or any primary care physicians, the question is obvious. Who's going to hold it all together?
Can we move from theory to practice? If we find something out, will we implement it? I must tell you that our record in healthcare of actually implementing stuff that we've learned is not great. It's sort of like the country singer Shania Twain, not the best spoken person who ever lived. She once said, "I'm not very good at doing things I'm not good at." One of the things we are not good at in healthcare is actually translating theory into practice, taking research and getting it to the bedside. And I think that's going to be a huge question with this stuff, is are we actually going to disseminate it?
Everybody wants to talk about egalitarian healthcare systems. I've been at this a long time. Tiers are inevitable. Billionaires are going to acquire what they want. Let them. I've stopped worrying about ceilings. Let us focus on floors. Let us commit ourselves to establishing a level of care below which no one is allowed to fall. And if these gentle people who have come back from hell and who have so little can go from this to this in a generation, then those of us in this room, most of whom have so much, can do no less. Thank you very much.